Hi, welcome to the newest episode of Sports Talk Central. I'm your host, Deep Mahmood, with my normal co-host, Hunter. And today we're going to be talking about the World Baseball Classic, previewing the MLB season, talking about NFL free agency, before finishing up with talking about some of the recent commits from Virginia for the Hokies in the 2024 class. So the World Baseball Classic concluded a few days last week. It was Japan beat the United States in the finals. And just for story book ending, Shohei Ohtani strikes out Mike Trout. I mean, what were your thoughts on World Baseball Classic?
That was awesome. Like I didn't tune in as much as I wanted to just because I was busy with some other stuff, but you can see just how it meant to so many people too. You know, this, they're obviously they do this because they don't have this at the Olympics, right? That
Right.
hockey is usually there with the NHL players, but not for the last couple. You have soccer there. Basketball has it, during the Summer Olympics, but baseball it's not there. It's really never been there. And so this is basically like their own version of the Olympics. And, it was awesome to seeing just fans of so many different countries at those games, watching Trout go against Ohtani that just lived up to the billing. Ohtani was very careful with how he was pitching to him. Trout was tipping his cap to him throughout the at bat. He's just kind of trying to get into his head. And it felt right that the championship match came down to that at bat. Two legends going at it. Otani's been said he's like the modern day Babe Ruth with how he can pitch, how he can hit. He's a cyborg, man. What he did during that tournament was just unbelievable with how he pitched, how he hit, how he ran. You know, he's the ultimate player in this sport. And hopefully the Angels do not lose 90 to 100 games this year with him and Mike Trout on the same team. But it was a ton of fun to watch. I think the U.S. and Japan they are the two best countries in terms of baseball. So it only felt fitting that it came down to that. But Japan has really gotten good, these last, 25 so years.
They got that kid, Sasaki or something, like the guy who throws 102. That kid, like, first of all, the posting rules, he's going to be available in like 2027 unless something happens. But man, you want to
That's going
talk
to be a
about
bidding war for him.
You want to talk about Yu Darvish? You want to talk about Ohtani? That's your next guy. That's the next guy people are going to be creaming themselves over.
They have so many players that come through, their leagues in their country, and they're good for a reason. That Japan is awesome, and it was just a great game to watch. Trey Turner did everything he could throughout that tournament and that game to will the United States to the championship. Ultimately, it wasn't to be, but honestly, this tournament made me miss, the NHL and the Olympics because that sport hasn't had a best on best since 2014, where it's been 9 years. Everyone's been wanting to see that. I love seeing best on best tournaments, no matter, it's baseball, basketball, hockey. Obviously, I think for football, it would kind of be hard because
Yeah.
I think 99% of the players are from the United States. So I don't think that
Also,
would
by
work.
the way, for football, even if you were to do it like by states, like by like Florida, like you gotta keep in mind where do most of the best players come from? Florida, Texas, California. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be. It's not. You can't do it
Yeah,
that.
you could do something like that, but it would still. I think it would be really weird. You're not going to do like a best on best all throughout the world competition. Soccer, obviously, that is king in terms of best on best competition with the World Cup and the Euros and all the other world tournaments that they have. But this was awesome to see. I'm really excited to see it come back in 2026. How did you like watching it?
I think it was really fun. I think that between a World Cup with Mbappe and Messi in the finals, and then Otani and Trout, I think we've been blessed with two really good world events in sports. So I like that. It also tells me that people talk about how baseball's America's pastime. I think there's just this. The bad part is this World Baseball Classic did kind of show that it's actually more Korea, Japan, Latin America, because you could definitely tell when you're watching that they have more energy than the United States. And maybe it's because the season was starting and you didn't see the Max Scherzers of the world, the Kershaws of the world participate in the World Baseball Classic. Look, no offense to Merrill Kelly and Kyle Freeland, but that is not the best United States pitchers has to offer. You look at Japan, Otani and Darvish. So, and then you look at some of these other guys. I mean, I think they do have to do they the World Baseball Classic really was impressive, but I think they do need to do a better job of making it more appealing to the main athletes because some of these I don't think Jordan Alvarez was doing the World Baseball Classic. Like Max Scherzer wasn't doing the World Baseball Classic. Justin Verlander wasn't doing the World Baseball Classic. Imagine what would happen if they did the World Baseball Classic and the U.S. would throw Scherzer, Verlander, Kershaw, Corbin Burns, so some of these other guys. Imagine what would happen if those guys came in. You would.
I do have a question. I was going to ask you, why weren't they there? Did they not accept the invite?
Probably. I mean, I think it's injury risk. I think it's more so they didn't want to get hurt in an exhibition game. I think it's like obviously with Edwin Diaz, with him getting hurt.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Keep going.
And the problem is you can't do it in the winter because baseball's not meant to be played at that point. You can't do it in the summertime and just pause the season because if you gave players a choice, they're going to choose. Is it like it's
to be fair, they kind of do that with hockey when the Olympics come around. They kind of pause the season, but there's also the injury factor with that because we've seen players like tear their ACLs at the Olympics there, and then they're done for the rest of the season. So I definitely understand that. But I do think they could do it during the season just because hockey does it, but they also have their All-Star break during it. But yeah. I understand why they did it during this time. It makes more sense.
Yeah, no, and but yeah, it was definitely a fun event. I mean, we're going to talk about the main thing now, which is MLB. Season starts this Thursday. I mean, there's a few questions. There's a few things I'm excited to see here. I mean, obviously, I mean, it's gonna be really fun. I mean, obviously, I think the Nationals are in a bit of a rebuild right now. The Orioles are a bit of an exciting team because we don't know if they're a playoff. Like they're in that group. Like,
do you expect a playoff berth this season?
I can't tell you that right now because I think it really depends on the young guys. So like if Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson, Grayson Rodriguez and DL Hall, if they all step up, this team can be a playoff team. This team can be what the Astros were like in 2015, like or something like the Blue Jays were, where they had young talent. They could get into the play. They got into the playoffs, but they weren't really contending for the playoffs. I think that's where they are this year. But they could also take a step backwards because it's a bunch of young players, and we don't know how active they would be in the trade deadline. So I don't think they would sell off pieces, but I look at the Orioles and I see a decent rotation. Like Kyle Gibson, when he has a good defense, is solid. He's the opening day starter. Dean Kramer was good last season. Thank goodness Dean Kramer's good because the rest of the Dodgers return we got from Machado have all sucked, and two of those guys are now back with the Dodgers, including Yusniel Diaz. So he's solid, but again, let's see if he can continue a step further. Kyle Bradish was pretty good. He's a guy that's been slept on because he's the third best pitching prospect behind Grayson and DL. DL Hall, I think he's going to start in AAA, but I think eventually he's going to be in the majors. Grayson, he's good. He seems to have a slight issue the second time through the lineup, so they might do one of those things where he pitches like 4 innings, 3, 4, 5 inning starts to kind of manage the innings, try to get him more used to it. So I like the rotation. You got to keep in mind John Means is coming back in the second half. So that's going to be like bringing in that's going to be like trading for a really good pitcher. So they got some talent. That lineup is really good. That lineup could be good between Rutschman, Henderson, Santander, Mullins. Like you got pieces, and then you got Colton Cowser who would come up. Heston Kjerstad can come up in the second half of the season, which is amazing because he was battling myocarditis a couple of years ago. So from that to potentially making his debut this season, it's impressive. Mm-hmm. But then Kobe Mayo's a guy that could come up. I mean, Jordan Westburg's a guy that could come up. They do have guys. I don't. So they got good pieces there. If they're contending, they definitely have the farm system to make a trade. I don't know if they're going to trade for like someone like Corbin Burns, but man, like if you can get Corbin Burns and now you're throwing someone like him, Cole Irvin, Kramer, Grayson, you got a good rotation. So short answer to that is they got the pieces. If they take a step forward, I could see them be a playoff team. but I can also see them a step backwards. Like that's kind of where I'm at. Like
Yeah.
they're kind of in between there. But some of these other teams are getting really interesting. Like I'm curious to see what the Angels do because they are going to be on a force of we have to keep Shohei Ohtani because not only if they don't make the playoffs, Ohtani's going to go somewhere else. But the other thing is what happens with Trout. If you got Ohtani and then you lose Ohtani and you have no playoff success whatsoever, and you're Mike Trout, I don't care how nice of a guy he is, he's gonna want to go, and I feel like he may want to go. So that's gonna be really interesting for the Rangers. I think they spent a lot of money. I don't know. Like Evaldi's fine. He's consistent. Martin Perez, we'll see what happens this year. Jacob DeGrom, he'll give you a 2.6, 2.7 ERA, but he'll
Wow.
probably
I almost forgot that he went there. I'm dead serious.
yeah. So he'll give you like a 2.7 ERA, but he'll probably throw 120 innings. So if it's 120 innings, like more like 110 innings, 110, 115.
If he doesn't get hurt, that is, yeah.
Yeah, if he doesn't get hurt. So I think a lot of it does hinge on that. They do have some bats in that lineup. I don't know. I think they got a potentially good rotation, but that could fall apart. But
what do you think? What do you think of the Mets this season with all that money they spend?
Ooh, that's gonna be tough. I think the big thing is who's gonna replace Edwin Diaz, and more so who's gonna replace the eighth inning guy, who's gonna replace the seventh inning guy, because everyone has to step up for that to be successful. But look, Buck Showalter, great manager. He's a fantastic manager. He's kind of like I kind of liken him to like Andy Reid pre Kansas City, where Andy Reid was good. He was on a Hall of Fame track, but he didn't have that Super Bowl. Buck Showalter is kind of in that same track. Dusty Baker was in that same track before last season. Yeah. Buck Showalter is kind of in that same track as well. So I mean, the Mets are under a ton of pressure. Obviously, with the deals that have been structured to 2-3 year deals, it's gonna be interesting. I think they should be good. The Mariners.
I will say real quick about the Nationals. I think obviously they are rebuilding this season. I don't think they'll lose 100 this year. I think they will be improved. I don't take much from spring training, obviously, but I will say they were 4-11 and something last season. They were 12-3 this season. Obviously, there were a little bit of improvements there. I don't think they're going to be particularly good, but I don't think they're going to be a pushover like they were last year. I think you're going to see Joey Meneses.
The A's. They're not the A's. No.
I think you're going to see Joey Meneses take a really big step forward. I think you're going to see Mackenzie Gore take a big step, making his just big debut, honestly, this season. I think Josiah Gray is going to be really good on that pitching staff. Patrick Corbin had a decent spring. Is that going to transfer over? Probably not. I don't really have faith in him. The lineup, though, again, should be interesting. Joey Meneses, very, very solid. It was really unfortunate to see Jesus. I think it was Abrams that got hurt in spring training. Yeah, he's going to be out for a while. I was really excited to see him this season. But I like the pieces that, that they have to start this rebuild. It's going to take multiple years, but I think they're going to be a sneaky, small, competitive team. They're going to be bad, yes, but I think they're going to make you earn it this season. They're going to be like a more respectable bad team, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then also I will say that some teams to look out for regression. I'm curious. I'm curious about the Mariners, whether they regress because obviously they had that historic winning streak last season. So, but then they got really good pitchers between Castillo, Ray, George Kirby. So they got the pitching staff. The lineup is after some of their rookies, Julio Rodriguez, Teoscar Hernandez is going to be solid from. I don't know if that lineup is going to be great. I could see a little bit of regression from them. I mean, obviously that division is Houston's to lose. I
think everyone knows that.
Yeah, that's Houston's division. Do you think the Dodgers are going to take a step backwards this year?
It's possible. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last season, though. If they do take a step back, I'm curious what happens with Dave Roberts. Does he is he out the door there? Because he's been a good manager, but he's also fallen short a lot of times outside of obviously their World Series championship very recently. But they did lose quite a bit in free agency, Edith. So that's obviously Justin Turner's gone. Cody Bellinger left too, right?
Yeah.
He's gone. I'm
Tyler,
curious to see. So what'd you say?
Yeah, Tyler Anderson they had last year. He's gone.
Yep.
There's a guy went. I can't remember his name. He went to Texas. He was I forgot his name, but they had another guy that was like a guy that was no one thought he was gonna be good, and then they kind of fixed him for a year. So
and then I will say I think Gavin Lux is banged up right now. Too. So it's going to be interesting to see. That division's tough. The Padres are coming for them. I think the Giants are going to be good again. They kept trying to say we're going to go out and spend that money, but did they really? At the end of the day, it's going to be a
they almost. It was a bad ankle. They almost.
Yeah. It's going to be a good division there. Adit, do the Phillies take a step back? They just brought in Trey Turner. That's a big deal. I'm curious to see how they play. That was a big season for them last season under that interim manager after Joe Girardi got fired. How do they do this season now after coming up very close to a World Series? I'm curious to see that as well.
Harper got the Tommy John surgery, so we'll see back. Also, like Aaron Nola, and I think Aaron Nola from the Phillies. They apparently ceased all contract talks with him, so I wonder if he's going to be happy there. But I mean, Phillies could be interesting. Braves, they didn't need a catcher. They got Sean Murphy from the A's, and then there's some bad teams. I mean, the Royals are interesting. The Tigers are going to be bad, are not going to be good unless Torkelson or some of the other guys step up. I mean, Reds are not going to be a fun team to watch. We'll see what they do there.
Fun fact today, I wrote today for work. Want to know a fun fact about the Cincinnati Reds? Ken Griffey Jr. is the 4th highest paid player on that payroll next season. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Dang, Hall of Famer and he's still making the most amount of money, a good amount of money.
$3.59 million. He's been retired for 13 years now.
Yep.
Wow. If I'm ever living that kind of life, I'll be on the beach in Bora Bora somewhere.
Yep. So
that's that's just how bad that team is going to be. I think the Pirates will stink again. That's just par for the course. I don't think the Cubs are going to be any good. I don't know.
I think maybe they're like one of those average teams. Like they're not terrible. They're not good. They're kind of in the middle. And I wonder if I know they made a bunch of 1-year deals with like they had Mancini, they added Bellinger. It's gonna be interesting there. The Central's gonna be pretty interesting. I think
one more. Sure. What do you think about the Yankees this season?
If they can stay healthy, they could be good. But I think that if there's a slow start from them, don't be shocked. Don't be shocked. Like 3 of their 5 pitchers are going to start the season on the IL. And look, I like Carlos Rodon. That being said, Carlos Rodon doesn't have the cleanest bill of health in his career. And you have to remember, 3 years ago, this was a guy that made at most $5 million in his career. So you have those guys that have those meteoric rises. The fall could be just as bad. Could be really bad for him. But no, I mean Garrett Cole's still Garrett Cole. They have a good lineup. Still a bit righty heavy. But we'll see what they do. The Red Sox are going to be interesting, but I think the Orioles have a better record than them. Tampa's always Tampa. Toronto is going to be good, but so it's going to be interesting. And I think Twins take the Central. Houston takes the West. I'm going to go with. I mean, I don't know if the Yankees take the East. I think it's going to be either Toronto or Tampa that take the East. I'm going to go with Atlanta for the NL East.
Yeah, Atlanta's going to be good again this season. They'll have Acuna back. You know, that's going to be he was hurt for most. He was hurt for last season. Yeah, him being back, that's going to be big.
Yeah, and then I'm going to say Cardinals for his NL Central, and then Padres. I'm going to say Padres for
I
the
would say
NL.
the Padres as well.
Yeah, I
Real
mean,
quick before we move on, what's your World Series pick? Two teams. I'm going to go Padres against. I'll say it. I think the Yankees finally slay the dragon and take down the Astros. Padres, Yankees.
I'm going to go Astros. I just think that team is just so well oiled as a machine. I think guys are going to take. And the only concern I have with Houston is I don't think that if they have to make that move mid-season, I don't think they have the farm system to do that. But at the same time, they're not the team that needs to do that as well. I mean, obviously Altuve is hurt, but they got insane depth there. I'm going to go say Astros because look, they've made the championship series the last 5 to 6 years. The odds are they are going to be one of the 4 teams in the American League that has a chance to make the World Series. I'm going to go Padres, Astros.
Okay.
I think Padres are waiting for their opportunity. They've invested in Machado. They've invested in Bogarts. They got a good rotation. If their pitching's good, I'm going to go with that. And I don't know who's going to win that World Series, but I mean, I think Padres definitely seem like the team that will, and obviously in baseball there's parity, so things could happen. So let's go to NFL free agency. Since last week, the Cowboys traded. We talked about Brandon Cook's trade, but a bunch of moves have been made. Terrell Edmonds goes to the Eagles. Nelson Aguilar goes to the Ravens. Uh, Hardman goes to the Jets. Jets trade Elijah Moore. What were your thoughts to all these moves that were happening last week?
Yeah, another busy day, busy days, excuse me, around the NFL. Nothing really surprised me too much. I will say it was kind of funny watching everyone just with the Nelson Aguilar signing. I mean, Steeler fans obviously just have fun with that because the Ravens don't really have a good history of drafting and developing wide receivers or even signing them. So it was fun to see that part, I don't really think he's going to be that much of a difference maker, but we'll have your opinion here pretty shortly. Elijah Moore, not surprised. I thought the Jets got a good return with that second round pick
Yeah.
from them for a receiver who is what a second, third best option on a contending team.
Yeah.
But he'll make the Browns better. Him, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Amari Cooper. There's some good options there for Deshaun Watson, and I think there's a chance that they may even still be going after Jerry Jeudy as well. I think Ezekiel Elliott, he's down to his final few teams, one of which is the Philadelphia Eagles, which is hilarious in itself. But, nothing really.
Bengals for Zeke.
Yes, that's correct. I don't need to see him go to the Bengals. I think Zeke is kind of cooked at this point, but him and Joe Mixon would be kind of interesting together. No, otherwise, nothing really too much surprised me this week. Still waiting for word on Aaron Rodgers. I don't know when the hell this is going to end. It's just ridiculous at this point already. More stuff continues to happen with Lamar Jackson, and I'm sure we'll get into that as well. But nothing really too much surprised me. The Steelers made another big move, getting the guard from the Eagles. They are really building the picket fence, as they say here. I'm really liking what they're doing in free agency. I think there's a chance that Bud Dupree comes back for depth behind Watt and Alex Highsmith. It's fine. If it's cheap depth, it's cheap depth. But, another solid week with NFL free agency, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I want to go talk a little bit to Nelson Aguilar thing. So I know a lot of people were thinking, why are they going after Nelson Aguilar?
You are way more of an optimist than most Ravens fans, so I want to hear this take.
I think because his college coach was T. Martin, and his first receivers coach was Greg Lewis, and both of those guys are in Baltimore. The Nelson Aguilar signing tells me, first of all, the contract details actually came out for Nelson Aguilar. It was 3.25 and then 3. That's what it was announced. It's actually his first year cap hit's about 1.58. It's 3 void years are brought in. So there again, he's in the void years. I think if he's your wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, he's good. I think if he's your wide receiver 1, then I'm going to worry a little bit. But that being said, with the small cap hit, I'm kind of starting to see this picture the Ravens are trying to build. Todd Monken in Tampa had Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. In Cleveland, he had Nick Chubb and Jarvis and Hunt and Kareem Hunt. In Georgia, he had Bowers, and then he had Darnell Washington. I'm starting to see commonality from Tampa, Cleveland, and Georgia with the Ravens, with their depth with what they have. Because right now they got the 2 tight ends, Andrews and Likely. That's from Georgia. You got your 2 running backs, Dobbins, Edwards, and Hill as your 3rd one. That's from Cleveland. That's the inspiration from Cleveland. From Tampa, you have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. This is where it gets really interesting here because Bateman seems to be Chris Godwin in this part. He seems to be kind of like that type of role. And with the way that this contract is structured, I'm not convinced that they're not going to go after a DeAndre Hopkins or a Courtland Sutton or a Corey Davis if he's cut. If OBJ is really going to go to the Jets, Corey Davis could be cut. I think the Ravens are they're now looking for a big-bodied receiver that can kind of fill the Mike Evans role. And I think the idea of if he can make the financials work with Courtland Sutton, great. If you can make then you have Sutton, Bateman, Aguilar, Duvernay. That's a pretty good 1, 2, 3, 4. And to me, I think the Ravens want to maximize the running backs in the passing game, the tight ends in the passing game, and the receivers in the passing game. So that might mean they might not go for the big alpha receiver. I'll be interested in what they do in the draft. Now for Aguilar, this is a guy that he is solid. He's not the best receiver. He's a big play guy. He again, the drops are not too much of an issue. I'll put it this way, if he's your number 3 or number 4, I'm happy with it, especially at the cost. If he's not, if he's your 1 or your 2, then I'm worried. But let's see what they do. And a lot of Ravens fans, the ones that were not overly emotional, were saying, this is a good start. Let's see what happens. And whether that's, like I said, trading for Courtland Sutton, trading for DeAndre Hopkins, obviously that coincides with Lamar. So, or they go out and draft a Quentin Johnson or a Zay Flowers. So I'm cautiously optimistic about Nelson Aguilar. I think he's better than James Prochet. I think he's better than Tylan Wallace. I think that he's better than Demarcus Robinson. I think he's better than Sammy Watkins. But he is not better than Bateman. He's not going to be your number 1 guy. So he's kind of in that balance. He's better than your depth. He's kind of like it's kind of like raise the floor to increase the ceiling type of signing. Now all you do is you raise the floor, you have to increase the ceiling. And that's going to be where they go. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but let's see what happens. Now, for the other moves, the Jets they confuse me. They want the headlines. I think that's the reason they want Aaron Rodgers, because they are going after all these receivers. If Odell Beckham goes there, then they trade the farm for Aaron Rodgers and they don't win. Robert Saleh is going to be fired. I think Joe Douglas is going to be out of a job. But the thing is, you know what the one position they haven't talked about? Offensive line. They have not brought up, they've not made improvements on the offensive line. And if you're going to trade for Aaron Rodgers, some of those picks could be used on offensive line. So again, Jets fans are really excited about Aaron Rodgers and excited about all these receivers. You got to protect your quarterback, because if the quarterback's not protected, those receivers aren't getting the ball. So that's going to be interesting there. I mean, look, we talked about the big signings last week. These are some of the more minor signings that could provide an impact. We'll see what happens. I mean, so that's kind of where I'm at with that. then on the Lamar front, it's a really weird
The
turn.
weekly Lamar update, my favorite pastime here.
So I think the media is just kind of running with this dramatic story.
You think? Have you seen Mike Florio's Twitter account?
Yeah, yeah, and then the whole Ken Francis thing. I thought it was like a Saint Omni thing. I thought that's because Roquan was like apparently Saint Omni was like helping Roquan, but it's like okay, well Ken Francis seems like a stage name. Then we find out before we talk about the fitness equipment, they were the word Florida man cracked me up. It's like
It's another Florida story, baby.
be wary of a Florida man. I was like, oh wow, selling a fitness invention. Which, by the way, I like Lamar. Here's the problem with Lamar. Like, here's the problem with Lamar. Pick better businesses to endorse this entire gym. I get it. You don't want to say you have part of the gym. You don't want to say you have the whole gym. You want to say you have the entire gym. That being said, it is a bad machine. It is a Bowflex, a suitcase, some weights, and an iPad sold separately. That's what he's endorsing.
I saw it. I looked at it. I was like, okay, whatever. Like,
if this was Shark Tank, everyone would say, "I'm out within 1 minute."
Literally, yeah. But man, this situation continues to get just weirder and weirder. You got the Florida man saying he's an agent of Lamar, whatever the hell happened. And I mean, I know what happened because like, and then Lamar comes out and is like, no, he didn't negotiate for me. And like, I feel so bad for him because he's just like, what the heck is going on here, man? Like, Ravens, I think it's time to just end the silliness. Let's just either pay him or trade him here. I mean, I don't think they're going to trade him, of course, but something's got to give because this continues to dominate the headlines. Usually, I think this organization doesn't really stand for this kind of stuff. They're kind of like the Steelers in that regard. So, I mean, obviously, I think they're hoping the sooner this ends, the better.
No, I think they want to keep Lamar. Like their use of void years is for them to match any contract. The fact that they're not going after a big name free agent is to match any contract. And at the end of the day, I mean, so they want him. The problem just seems to be, and they're working on for his timeline. Look, the Ravens have been silent on this whole thing. It's for other teams. So I don't know if Lamar is trying to sabotage other teams for not and actually find a way, and eventually he is going to go to Baltimore. Look, as long as Lamar's not doing conspiracy theories, I could care less. Look, does he have bad? I understand he wants to be a billionaire. He went on LeBron's show and said he wants to be a billionaire. This is not the way to be a billionaire. And
no, it's not.
And look, I get it. Like the whole business stuff isn't great, but at the end of the day, at least he's not doing anything really dangerous. He's just guilty of being a bad business person. That's it. He's still a good football player. He's still a good person, but between his soul food restaurant, his production studio, his clothing line, um, he has his fingers in a lot of buckets right now.
That's a great way to say it, by the way. Nice.
Yeah, thanks. So to me, yeah, like if he can just focus on something, his business sense would be much better. But no, I think it is an odd saga. And I do think he eventually does get to Baltimore. I know that the Colts apparently had some playing in Baltimore. I don't think that they are really going after Lamar. Also, considering Lamar's in Florida and Eric DaCosta is in Arizona, and the Colts playing is in Baltimore, maybe it's for Marcus Peters. Maybe Marcus Peters is in Baltimore right now, and he wants to talk to them because the Colts could use a corner. Also, I will also say, speaking of former Colts corners, don't be surprised if Rock Ya-Sin is signed by the Ravens. Don't be surprised if he signed on like a one year deal, kind of similar to what Aguilar got, and he's kind of like your number 2 corner, because between him and Trayvon Mullen, with Marlon Humphrey and some of the other guys, Ravens like filling out some of their main holes before the draft so they can go best player available. So, so Hunter, if you see a headline, don't be shocked if you see a headline of Ravens sign Rock Ya-Sin to a 1-year deal. Like that's all
Okay.
I'm gonna say. Like, I don't have any inside information. It just seems to make sense. They had him for a visit. Don't be shocked if you hear they signed him, and don't be shocked if it's like a contract with 4 years. So we're going to move on to the Virginia Tech Athletics.
Congratulations to the Virginia Tech women's basketball team, the first Elite Eight in program history. What a team they are, man. Like, Georgia just kicks so much ass. Kitley kicks so much ass. Pardon my language. Kenny Brooks is one of the best coaches in the country. They defend very well. They can put points on the board very quickly. They can win this thing, man. They really can.
Scary. It was a little scary in the late third, early fourth quarter of yesterday's game, but yeah, let's see how far they go. Virginia
They
Tech
got Ohio State up next. I think they would get the winner of the. It's the winner of the. I think it's the. Is it the Miami LSU? No,
Miami LSU. I think it is.
I think because I'm trying to remember who South Carolina. Yeah, South Carolina's on the other side of the bracket.
Yes.
So they would get South if they get to the national title. They would probably play South Carolina considering they're undefeated.
So but Miami LSU that they would play. The Virginia Tech will play if they beat Ohio State, and then it's Louisville, Iowa, South Carolina, and whoever they're playing. Okay. That's the other 4 teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think VT here, they can beat Ohio State. I think that, Kenny's going to have to come up with a plan to really beat their press. But, why not them? They've won 14 in a row. They're 30-4 overall. They're playing their best basketball of the season. They've shown everyone that they are one of the best teams in the country. Keep making history. It's time to get to the Final Four. They played very well against Tennessee. Ohio State's going to be a different beast. But I think Tech can do it. Kenny Brooks has done an incredible job. And, I really do hope they get the natty, man. They're playing great basketball.
Yeah, and so we'll keep watching. We'll update it next week for that one. But Virginia Tech football now has 3 commits. Quarterback Davy Belfort, whose dad's actually a UFC fighter, so that's pretty interesting. And he's 5'10", 185. He's a 3-star guy, 3-star, 4-star guy, so that's exciting to see. Joshua Clark, he's committed as an athlete. He's more than likely going to play corner or safety for him. Mm-hmm. And then Derek Dandy is an edge from North Carolina. So Brent Price doing a really good job with, so far, quick on the top 3. I know Belfort was a guy that people were talking about for a while. It's a good start. This is a very good start to the next year's recruiting class.
Yeah, I agree. I think Brent Pry, this class is really where you want to get the ball rolling. You did what you could in the 2023 class, even though a lot of those players, you had to just start fresh because it was a new coaching staff. But this year, you have your legs under you. You've been on this job for a little over a year now, year and a half, I should say. This is where you get the ball rolling. This is where I want to see a class inside that top 20 range. If you can do top 15, that would be even better. But this is a good start. Belfort, very good prospect. A couple other ones I got this week. I want to see some players from the top 10 of Virginia commit to Virginia Tech. That's my next goal. Then you want to get into the top 5, and then you want to try to get that number 1 player in the state to stay home. That's going to be a lot tougher, especially for this class and down the road. But, they have laid down the foundation. They put in the work for it. Now you got to start to see it pay off, and keep repairing those relationships in Virginia, outside the state, of course. Really curious to see how the rest of this class shapes up, but it's off to a really good start.
Yeah, and they're also I think a couple of them, or 1 or 2 of them, cited the strong transfer class they got for transfer guys, and some of the strong guys they got late in the process in the last recruiting class. So it's going to be a fun class to look. Hopefully they keep they keep them. I mean, especially Belfort, because I think there's a lot to like about that guy. But yeah, I mean, obviously now it's just making sure all the coaching staff is filled out, ready to go. I'm excited to see what they do this upcoming season. But yeah, you're right. They have a good start. Let's see if they continue. So next week we are going to talk a bit about the start of the MLB season. We're going to be talking about some NFL free agency, Virginia Tech women's basketball. I'll do an update on Virginia Tech baseball as well. So we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun next week. Hope you all have a great week here.